Midori Protection Squad. Ashido, guys. Ashido, guys, can I just say that Midoriya is like infinitely more adorable after today? Ashido, we were talking about costume adjustments and he was so nice and concerned about the fact that they made mine strapless and even drew me out design options. And pulled fabric swatches that he thought were bright and bubbly, like me. He's just so wholesome. Kaminari, I know, right? I cried during my appointment. Like, he was so worried about me being permanently injured by my quirk when I overload because it's apparently not normal, so he drew up all these ideas for support gear. And he even talked to me about classwork. Kaminari, he thinks I might have undiagnosed dyslexia and ADHD. I'm scheduled to be tested for it this week, and he even offered me tutoring. Kirishima, dude, that's so manly of him. Yaoyorozu, he was very kind in the meeting I had with him. He was appalled at the costume the company gave me. Apparently they had DNA-infused fabric options that my quirk could have worked with. It will be so much of a relief to not be so exposed. Jairu, wasn't he also upset about the butt bookshelf? Yaoyorozu, yes, that. It wasn't exactly well planned. He's getting a digital wrist-mounted device that I can use to look up a variety of items' molecular components instead of having to flip through a book for. Hagakure, I'm getting a DNA suit too. He thinks they can make it turn visibility on and off. At the very least, my boots and gloves will do that with reflector panels. Tsuyu, I don't know about the rest of you, but I was just as impressed with the design sketches he did. Ashido, I know, right? He made me look so pretty. Uraraka, he drew 3 different designs for my costume, and I was amazed at all of them. He even remembered me mentioning that 13 was my favorite hero and modeled my new boots after theirs. Bakugu, Are you fuckers done gushing over the nerd? Uraraka, remind me why he's in this group again? Bakugu, fuck off, round cheeks. Uraraka, how about you, Blasty? Zero, I feel like whenever those two finally spar, something's gonna be broken. Jairu, probably Kami. Kaminari, HEY. Kaminari, but true. Hell chat. Problem child at Loud Dad, hey, is there any way you can send Shinso Hitoshi to see me after the last block period today? I'm not sure if he has any obligations after school and I could possibly do it tomorrow, but I have an offer I want to extend to him. Loud Dad, sure, I can check with him, hold on. Cat Dad, what's this about, kid? Problem child, remember that idea we discussed with Nedzu regarding how rigged the entrance exams are? Cat Dad, yes. Carry on. Wynant, that was very vague and ominous. Problem child, it's just a program we are thinking about implementing since the commission is run by quirkist bastards. Blood, I just spat out my drink. Diglett, Aizawa, you are a bad influence on the kid. Cat Dad, what, it's the truth. Wynant, I think he meant the bastard part, Shoyuta. Problem child, oh no, I picked that up from All Might. Blood, well then. Granny, Yagi. All Dad, air. Loud Dad, Shinso says he is free. Heads up though, the kid is a bit wary of, well, people. Granny, oh, is the poor dear alright? Loud Dad, it's only the 2nd day, but he is very closed off from his classmates. Not to mention that I caught 2 of them harassing him about his quirk. Cat Dad, did you deal with them? Rat Satan, the 2 students are currently on suspension with mandatory quirk discrimination classes in order to stay enrolled. Cat Dad, good. Problem child, I will be nice, I promise. I just want to make him an offer. But at Cat Dad and at All Dad, this does mean I won't be available during Heroics lecture today. All Dad, that is quite alright, my boy. I already have my note cards prepared. Cat Dad, I'll sleep in the corner in case he needs backup. Cat Dad, oh, and I nearly forgot. Problem child, oh no. Cat Dad at Problem child, shame. Loud Dad, oh yeah, you still have 2 more days. Loud Dad at Problem child, shame. Wynant at problem child shame. All dad at problem child, shame. Rudden Tootin at problem child shame. Brick at problem child shame. Blood at problem child shame. Spook at problem child shame. Diglet at problem child shame. Rat Satan at problem child shame. Problem child, I hate you all. Problem child at cat dad, I'm moving out to go live in the woods. Cat dad, good. All dad, Izuku, Aizawa, please. Class 1A chat. Problem child, hello at everyone. Quick announcement. I will not be present during heroics today due to a meeting. I'm not sure how long that meeting will take, so I also will not be available after class today. If you have any questions, feel free to message me, but if the question seems urgent, Aizawa-sensei is still available. Problem child, also, please be kind to All Might. He's still new to teaching, and he's very excited about the lecture he prepared today over rescue procedures. Uraraka, we'll miss you in class. Ida, we as a class will be on our best behavior for All Might. You have nothing to fear. Jairu, saying that is just going to jinx us. Kaminari, I'm sure things will be fine. Jairu, and now it's for certain. Buttface, behave, gremlins, or you're expelled. Buttface. Buttface at problem child, fix my name before I expel you too. Problem child, yes, sensei. Dadzawa, good. Dadzawa. Dadzawa, god damn it, Izuku. Siro, you know, he does give off dad vibes. Ida, that is inappropriate language, Aizawa-sensei. Ashido, Bakugu has said things that are much more inappropriate. Uraraka, Bakugu's face is inappropriate. Bakugu, you are dead, round cheeks. Kaminari, I am so calling him Dadzawa next time I see him. Dadzawa, don't. 30 minutes later. Class 1A chat. Satu, I heard a muffled cut-off yelp and saw Kaminari being dragged off by a capture weapon. Aizawa-sensei won't hurt him, right? Problem child, Sai probably not. Hagakure, that doesn't help, senpai. Jairu, I told you guys that you were going to jinx us. Problem child, all I wanted was a calm, happy group chat with no threats of murder or bodily harm. Is that too much to ask? Tsuyu, yes. Problem child, okay. Hell chat. Problem child at cat dad, are you willing to adopt another child? Problem child at rat Satan, how can I legally murder someone? Blood, what the fuck? Cat dad, what happened? Problem child, I am so angry. Problem child, I kept a straight face during the meeting, but I am currently in the teacher's lounge trying to calm down while Shinso is waiting for me in my office. Problem child, Zawa, I can't let him go back tonight. No way. No. You have to keep him. I will fight whoever I need to, but he's not going back to those monsters, just no. Cat dad, deep breaths, Izuku, I'm almost to the teacher's lounge, everything will be alright. Diglet, why is Aizawa sprinting through the halls like a madman? Blood, scroll up. Diglet, oh shit. Wynant, what happened? Loud dad, show, I'm on my way too. Rat Satan, as am I. Rat Satan, murder cannot be done legally, but I do have some legal alternatives if this is what I believe it to be. All dad, oh my boy, is everything alright? Diglet, it's been 10 minutes, what's happening? Cat dad, so, I am going to be using my emergency foster license to take legal custody of Shinso. I won't go into detail, but he revealed several issues with his current foster parents to Izuku that are not okay. I need to go talk to the boy about this, but Izuku will be unavailable for a bit due to a minor panic attack. Wynant, oh shit, do you need me to come to the lounge or do you all need space? Loud dad, space is preferable right now. We don't want to overload either of them. I'm sitting with Izuku and Sho is talking to Shinso. Shinso is taking the news as well as can be expected but is very confused as to why we are so concerned. Cat Dad at all. Dad, can you come and borrow a Zuku for a few hours? I need to take Shinso to get his things from his foster parents' home and make a few calls to the detective. I don't think the kid should meet the foster parents. All. Dad, I will be there shortly. All. Dad, also, my boy, would you like to pick up some Katsudon tonight? Problem Child, yes please. Problem Child at Cat Dad, if I can't legally commit murder, how about punching them in the face? Cat Dad, no, Izuku. Problem Child, worth a shot. Shinso was not used to having people worry about him. He was fine with this. He grew to not expect help from others early on and to drag himself up from the dirt on his own. He did not need any help to achieve his goals. But when his teacher pulled him aside and said that Class 1A's teaching assistant requested a meeting with him, he could not help the small bloom of hope in his chest. But then he met the TA, and he immediately slammed his guard back up. I'm so glad you agreed to meet me today, Shinso. Blinking slowly, Shinso stared at the green-haired boy sitting across from him who smiled far more brightly than he knew how to handle. The boy could not possibly be older than him, and he could not help but blurt out his first thought. Is this a prank? The boy blinked, then tilted his head in confusion in a way that was far too similar to a puppy. No. He blinked again, and then recognition flashed. Oh, you're confused about my age, aren't you? Just a bit. And then the boy explained. Skipped a grade, second-year student, finished all of the heroics courses and then some, and now the teachers are floundering just to find some way to occupy this beast of a child's time until he turns 18 and can be set loose on the world. Shinso found himself shrinking in on himself, keeping a carefully crafted mask as this golden child, the perfect poster child for a hero school, shifted nervously in his chair while explaining this all. The nervous nature set off red flags in his head, contradicting the accomplishments of the boy wonder. Seeming to not like talking about himself, Izuku soon shifted gears. His face had a false neutrality about it, but his eyes flared in irritation as he spoke. Being quite frank, the exam for the heroics course is shit. If he had been drinking something, he would have spat it out. Huh, the golden boy can swear. The greenette blinked, then sheepishly scratched his head. I have a bit of a temper on certain topics. The fact that heroics favors flashy, destructive quirks is one of them. So many good quirks slip through the cracks. And oh, does that fact sit bitterly in Hitoshi's stomach. I want to fix that, Midoriya declared, determination burning in his eyes. But the board is full of quirkist idiots, and Netsu is having to wage a very slow war with them, so it will take time. In the meantime, I found a loophole. The sports festival. Shinso blurted it out before he could stop himself and immediately panicked, only to see an approving grin from Izuku. Yes. The sports festival. You've done your research. Midoriya happily replies, moving to grab a file off his desk. Aizawa-sensei got into the hero course the same way. Shinso was very aware of this, considering Eraserhead was his idol. However, that is not the loophole I was referring to. Opening the folder and holding it out for Shinso to take, he asked, how familiar are you with the original vigilante laws? Shinso could easily say that this was decidedly not how he was planning his day to go. Shifting uncomfortably in the passenger seat of the car, he stared out the window with a grimace on his face. He had a million emotions coursing through him in that moment, but not a single distinct thought about how to react to his current predicament. Glancing at the driver, part of him tried to say that this was just a fever dream. How else could he explain not only being in the vicinity of his hero idol, but also in the man's car? Now if only their destination were better. You really don't have to go through this trouble. A heavy sigh. Trust me, kid, this isn't any trouble. Flipping on the blinker as they turned onto the familiar street, Aizawa drawled, and there is no way in hell I will sit back and let them treat you like that. Shrugging, Shinso dropped his eyes in his lap. They're going to deny it. Unfortunately for them, the pro replied with a hint of a vindictive edge to his voice. I have a detective with a lie detector quirk on speed dial. Shinso's head snapped up. He's willing to help? Of course, Aizawa replies as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. That's his car parked a couple houses down. And the kid didn't think he could afford to hope, but yes, he could clearly see a man in a trench coat exiting a car not too far away from where their vehicle was being parked. Shinso. His gaze dropped to his lap, and he wondered why the car was shaking so much. Then, he realized the car was off, and oh, it's me that's shaking, Shinso, I promise. This will be the last time you ever have to set foot in that house. He let out a bitter, slightly hysteric laugh before he could stop himself. And can you promise that the next foster family will be any better? Silence. And then, the pro carefully sat a hand on his shoulder. Yes, because I won't treat you like that. The implications of that single sentence set in, and Hitoshi didn't know whether to feel overjoyed or numb. In order to get into the heroics course this year, you have to place in the top 3 at the festival, which is not an easy feat without proper training. And, unfortunately, due to UA rules, you cannot be taken on as an apprentice by any of the teachers until after the sports festival, which means you would be competing with zero training against heroic students who have been receiving training for over a month by that point. Slouching in his chair, Shinso glared at the boy in front of him while tossing the file filled with printouts from the UA rule book onto the desk. I'm well aware of the odds I'm up against. Is there a point to this? Yes, there is. Midoriya carefully shifted through the papers. You know, it's funny how many laws are made and then never adjusted as time goes on and circumstances change. Provisional licenses are now near entirely used for just heroic students, but originally, they were meant for vigilantes prior to them getting full hero licenses. One big issue that occurred were vigilantes stuck in this in-between state with apprentices of their own that were not quite ready for a provisional license. So, the solution? He finally found the page he was looking for and triumphantly handed it to Shinso. People with official provisional licenses were allowed to take on apprentices, so long as 3 fully licensed heroes with teaching licenses signed off. Then, he pulled out another form. Principal Nedzu, Aizawa-sensei, and Yamada-sensei were all more than happy to sign off on this. Shinso's hands began to shake. What? UA rules say nothing against TAs being able to take on an apprentice, Midoriya elaborates softly, noticing the lost look in Shinso's eyes. I have a provisional license, and I have plenty of training to at least get you close to par with the other hero students before the festival. All Might is also more than willing to allow you to sit in on and observe the heroics lessons. Why? His throat felt like it was closing up, like he couldn't breathe. Why are you going through all of this for me? Midoriya sat quietly for a minute, seeming to think over his words. Then, cautiously, he explained. I've had this plan since last year. Nedzu approved, and after the entrance exams were done, he let me go over all the files of those who tried the heroics exam and did not make it in the course to pick my apprentice. You stuck out for a lot of reasons. Slowly, as if not to startle the boy, Izuku opened a drawer on his desk and pulled out a file with Shinso Hitoshi scribbled across the front. Your exam scores were good, and your entrance essays had some good takes on heroics as a whole, a perspective without the sugar coating fed to the public that is desperately needed in the industry. Of course, the practical exam. Shinso shut his eyes tightly, hands shaking while Midoriya hesitated. Your practical exam went fairly well for someone without any training or a physical quirk. His eyes snapped open. I got only 16 points. How in the hell is that fairly well? It could have been 0, the greenette replied with a shrug. Yet there you were, running through the streets with nothing but a stray piece of rebar, trying to beat up robots 5 times your size. Hitoshi could still remember the stinging pain in his hands from where the rebar tore at his skin. You even nearly got yourself crushed by yanking that one kid out of the way. Shinso scowled. Yeah, the one that punched me for keeping him from being the one crushed. Believe me when I say that he was dealt with, the greenette chirped in a way too chipper tone. Then, growing more somber, he continued. Still. You never gave up. You kept fighting. That's more than a lot of the test-goers can say, and well. I also have a bit of a selfish reason for this. Oh? Shinso asked with a quirked brow. What would that be? You're like me. Okay, sunshine boy, how? Izuku sputtered over being called a sunshine boy before explaining, I read your middle school file. That's the moment when Shinso flipped. Jumping up from his seat, he slammed his hands on the desk. You did what? He was angry, irrationally angry, but still, the notes the teachers made about him, the accusations, the black marks tch, just had to double-check the villain kid's file, huh? That made Izuku's face flip from shock and confusion to rage in a split second. I'm sorry, what? Rising from his chair as Shinso flinched ever so slightly from the look on the boy's face, he watched Midoriya soften but still maintain a stern look. Shinso, who told you that you were a villain? You're kidding, right? He let out a weak laugh. You've seen my quirk. It's a villain's quirk dash. There is no such thing, Izuku interrupted, not unkindly but in a firm tone. A quirk is a tool. Nothing more, nothing less. He scoffed, dropping his gaze to the ground while muttering. Tell that to literally everyone else in my life. What? Everything will be alright, Izuku, my boy. Said boy practically vibrated in place, darting around the room and fussing over every detail. His own nervous energy was driving him up a wall, and if he had the time, he would have dashed off to the campus quirk-resistant gyms to burn off some steam. But seeing as how they would be back soon, he did not have time to do so. I just want to make sure that everything is ready for him, Izuku mutters quietly, fussing over the bed sheets once again. They were a simple, standard set that had just been in the closet, but it was the best they could do on short notice. He hoped Shinso wouldn't mind. They were fortunate to have the spare bed in storage on campus, and Izuku had spent all the time with Yagi focusing on making the room perfect. It had previously been an office space for Izuku and Aizawa in their on-campus apartment, but Aizawa always ended up working at the dining table anyway. There were still piles of paperwork and discarded coffee mugs covering the poor table. He desperately wanted to clean it up and organize, but Aizawa insisted he had a system, and Izuku preferred to work either sprawled on his bed or in his school office, so it's not like the room was getting much use anyway. So, Aizawa's untouched desk was shoved into the corner for Shinso to use if he desired, whereas Izuku's was dragged into his own room. Bookshelves were rearranged, two removed to help keep the room from feeling overcrowded. Aizawa's room was now very overcrowded, but the man wouldn't mind. He crashed on the couch more often than not. Lastly, the bed was assembled easily enough, and not knowing where else to put it in the apartment since they already had one in every room, the cat tower was left in the corner for now. Oh God, did Shinso even like cats? A large, bony hand settled heavily on his shoulder, making him nearly jump out of his skin. Yagi chose to not acknowledge the boy's jitteriness, knowing that it would only make things worse. If he still requires anything else, we can take him shopping over the weekend. A small, shaky smile grew on the brunette's face, thankful for his mentor's steady presence. While Izuku had not allowed his mentor to help move furniture, having the man around to help him keep his head on straight was appreciated. Before Izuku could even think to say anything else, he could distantly hear the front door swing open and he let out a distressed eep. Darting out into the hall and skidding to a halt, he offered the pair a nervous smile. Aizawa simply quirked a brow, an amused look on his face over how nervous the boy was, whereas Shinso just stared in shock before blurting out, "What are you doing here?" Laughing nervously, Izuku sheepishly scratched his head. I sort of live here." Aizawa snorted. "He's like a stray cat, you feed him, and he won't go away. More like you showed me basic human affection, and I decided I would die for you," Izuku quipped back before his brain caught up to his mouth, and he began to stutter out apologies. Strolling further into the apartment, the older man simply ruffled the brunette's hair, fondly muttering, "Problem child." Looking back towards Shinso, who was staring at the two warily, Aizawa gestured for him to follow. "Come on, problem child number 2, knowing Izuku, he's already started setting up your room." More like he already finished the room, Yagi called out as he stepped out of said room. We were limited in what we had, but it's certainly a good start. You know young Izuku tends to go plus ultra in everything. Shinso eyed the green-haired boy, watching him go red in the face before burying said face in his hands, letting out quiet, overwhelmed screams. With a small smirk, Shinso turned his attention back towards the newcomer. He looked familiar, but Shinso felt like he would have recognized the blonde skeleton more easily if he had met him before. Do you live here too? Oh heavens no, the man replied with a dry laugh. I was just staying with Izuku till you two returned. But I will leave you three to it. Fondly ruffling Izuku's hair, which Shinso was beginning to realize was a trend, the man warmly stated, if any of you need anything, please let me know. We can take young Shinso shopping for everything else he needs this weekend. The boy in question was startled. That's not necessary, I have everything I need, and I couldn't bother you dash. Oh, I'm sure you will think of some things by the weekend, the skeleton replied, waving his protests off. And I have more money than I know what to do with, so it's certainly not a bother. Izuku chuckled. Trust me, Shinso, it's not worth the argument. Once Toshinori-san gets his mind set on something, you can either go along with it or let him go unattended. Unattended is much, much worse. I'm not that bad. Toshinori-san. But dash. Toshinori-san. The blonde huffed. Alright, you damn zygote. Ruffling the kid's hair again a bit more playfully, spurring cries of protest from the boy, he grinned and teased, and I told you to drop the honorific. If you two are done. Both yelped, sending sheepish looks to Aizawa like two kids caught doing something they shouldn't, but Aizawa only smiled softly. Come on, Shinso has had a long day. We should let him rest. That seemed to spark something in Izuku. Oh. Right. I'm so sorry. Darting forward, he swiftly grabbed Shinso's bag before he could protest and began to head back towards the room, calling out for Shinso to follow him. We'll get you settled, and then we can discuss arson. Shinso blinked. Discuss what? Midoriya began to reply, but Aizawa cut him off. Problem child, you are not setting fire to his previous foster parents' house. But dash. Repeat after me, hero students do not commit arson. But what about dash? Hero students do not commit arson. Silence. So help me, I will extend your shaming in the chat dash. Fine. Hero students don't commit arson. Izuku quickly shouted, waving his arms in the air. Aizawa simply smirked. Glad you understand. Shinso just stared, before quietly muttering, what the fuck?